Touch devices. We have many different kind of touch devices and they have been around for over 2 decades. Among the first one was the Newton from Apple. And from there, many other devices have been created. From mobile phones, either using a stylus or our fingers, to touch screens that include displays, laptops, all-in-one computers, and many other kind of devices. For instance, if you go into a mall, you will find that many of the screens there allow touch screen. So you touch the different menus and then you can get information out of there. The same thing applies to some fast food restaurants like McDonald's where you can go and select what you want from there and just go and pick it up. If we go into our vehicles, the same thing happens. Instead of having a bunch of knobs and different buttons and things, now we see that most vehicles are adopting big screens to be able to control most of the settings. Either goes from the radio, the music player, the GPS, all the way into some vehicles like Tesla, which allows you to modify things inside the vehicle, the kind of power that you're going to use, etc. Even if we go into home appliances, you will see that devices like the Thermomix include a touch screen to be able to control it a lot easier. So this has been around for a while. The main two devices that use touch screens are Android and iOS, which are actually operating systems. So first, Android. You are familiar with this device. Uh, there are many different brands that we can buy that include this operating system. It was manufactured and it is still currently by Google, and the first release was on September 23rd, 2008. Currently, these kind of devices have multiple high definition cameras on the back, a high definition camera on the front that sometimes can include a depth camera to identify the face or other things. They include multiple speakers to improve the sound. They reduce the amount of buttons to the minimum. They have a touch screen, which is our main way to use the phone, and they also include multiple sensors like a GPS, accelerometer, compass, a gyroscope, etc., etc. Okay, but this has been evolving from having very simple devices that many of those didn't include any kind of camera and just had the main screen and you had to use a stylus all the way to this. Some of the most common aspect ratio for devices that use Android are 16 by 9, 16 by 10, 4 by 3, and 17 by 10. The most common brands or the brands that sell most Android phones are Samsung, Huawei, Xiaomi, Google, and LG, among many others. You might be thinking Motorola or OnePlus, etc., etc. Now, the other operating system is iOS. And again, if you see both devices, you will find that they have the same thing. Multiple high definition cameras on the back, high definition camera on the front, depth camera to recognize the face, speakers, a couple buttons, touchscreen, the GPS, accelerometer, and compass. But the main difference is inside the software and what you can do with it. Okay? iOS, as you know, was created by Apple. The first version was released or even announced on January 9, 2007. The most common aspect ratios are right now 19.5 by 9. This is since the iPhone X, iPhone XR, and all the new versions. 4 by 3, which is more likely the iPads, and 16 by 9 for all devices, iPhone devices, and some tablet devices as well. Between these two operating systems, we have most of the ecosystem that we can use for touch screens. And if we know how to use these two operating systems, we can jump to other operating systems. The basics are the same. And as you will see, Unity helped us to standardize everything to make it work even better.
Hello everyone. Today I'm going to show you how to configure your Android device in order for it to work inside of Unity. The first thing that you want to do is make sure you have Unity Remote installed in your device. Simply go into the Google Play Store, search for Unity Remote, and install it. Once you have your Unity Remote installed, let's connect our device into our computer. You want to make sure that you're using not only a charged cable, but a cable that lets you transfer files. So once we connect it, you can see there are three options. We want to make sure we select transfer files. Okay, now once we've selected the transfer files, let's head over into settings. Now it is important to note that the steps that I'm following here in the video can vary depending on your Android version. The version that I'm using is Android 10. So if some of the steps are not the same inside of your device, just make sure what Android version you're using and simply search for the functionality that you're not finding uh, in Google depending on your Android version. Now, once we are here in settings, we want to search for the About Phone option. That's all the way down. So simply touch it. And once we're in here, you can see that there's a lot of information about our phone. But what we want to do here is enable the developer mode. In order to enable developer mode, simply click the build number. And as you can see, a message will pop up saying you are already a developer. That's because I already enabled the developer mode. To enable the developer mode, simply touch, the build number 7 times. And once you touch the build number 7 times, a message will appear saying you are now a developer. Now let's head over back into settings and we want to go into system and updates. Inside of system and updates, we want to search for the developer options. Once we're in the developer options, we want to search for the debugging section. And as you can see, inside of the debugging section, there's a USB debugging. This is very important because if we don't have this enabled, Unity Remote won't work in our devices. So make sure this option is enabled. Another thing to note, if you don't select the file transfer option, the USB debugging won't work correctly. So that's why it is important to select it. Okay, now we are done. Let's let's try by opening Unity Remote and open Unity in our computer to test our device. If the configuration was successful, okay, allow USB debugging, yes, you want to accept, click touch OK, yes. And then if the configuration was successful, once you've hit play inside of Unity, you should see uh, the what appears in your scene inside of your computer on the screen of your Android device. Now, it can happen that even if you have done correctly the configuration, that once you hit play, that Unity Remote won't work. Now, if that happens, simply connect back your device, Android device, but make sure that you close Unity first. So close Unity, disconnect your Android device, and connect it once again. Remember to select file transfer and open Unity again. Once you hit play again, everything should be working. So let's wait some seconds, and there you go. Now I can see in my Android screen what I'm seeing in my computer inside of Unity. Well, that is everything for this video. I hope that it helped, and I will see you on the next video. Thank you. Hello everyone. Once you've connected successfully your Android device into your computer, we can now start configuring certain aspects inside of our computer in order for the Android device to work properly inside of Unity. So the first thing that we're going to do is make sure you have installed Android Studio and Unity Hub. It's fairly simple. You can search in Google for Android Studio, and it's practically the first link that will appear, and it's pretty straightforward. So once you download Android Studio, the other software that you're going to need is Unity Hub. It's actually a recommendation, but I strongly suggest that you install Unity Hub because Unity Hub will help us install the Android SDK corresponding to our version of Unity, and this will help us avoid various problems. Once you've downloaded Android Studio and Unity Hub, go ahead and open Android Studio. I've just created a new project, but the thing that I want to do inside of Android Studio is fairly simple. I want to go over here to Tools and click in SDK Manager. And as you can see, this window will appear. I want to go to Android SDK. And the thing that I want, and as you can see these tabs here. I want to select SDK Tools. And inside, what interests me is the Google USB driver. This driver is necessary in order for our Android device to work properly using Unity Remote inside our device. So you just select this Google USB driver and you will install it. Right now I already installed it, that's why the option doesn't appear, but simply select it and install it. Once you've finished downloading the Google USB driver, I suggest that you restart your computer, just in case. Now that we have our Google USB driver, we can click OK, and we're done actually using Android Studio. I'm going to minimize it. The next thing is let's head over to Unity Hub. I have a Unity Hub right here. And we can go over to installs. And as you can see, here are my Unity versions. Right now I'm using the 2020 version. And Unity Hub has something really cool that lets you install the Android SDKs corresponding to your version. So if I click on the three buttons, I will go into Add Modules, and as you can see, there are various options, but I'm interested only in the Android Build Support. So click Android Build Support and make sure these ones are selected as well, and you will have to install it. I already have these ones installed, that's why I don't have to do it, but make sure that you have these installed, and if not, go ahead and install them. And once you're done, we can close this and head back to our Unity project. Now, we're almost done. We have our USB debugger driver and we have the Android SDK downloaded. The next thing that we have to do is go into File and Build Settings and make sure that your platform is Android. By default, I think it's PC and Mac, so just make sure that you switch to Android. Once you have done this, you can close this and then go over to Project Settings and go into Editor And inside of editor, you want to make sure that here you have any Android device. Once you've selected this, you can close this window. Then you're going to go to preferences, and the SDKs that we just installed in Unity Hub will appear here. It can happen that the first time that you click play, you will receive a warning that Unity cannot find the Android SDK. If that happens, try and disabling these boxes. For example, click browse, and normally it will automatically complete the path. If this does not happen and this window pops, just click cancel and go ahead and select again these boxes. It can happen as well that a warning appears once you click play, but if you stop playing and you click again, the warning may disappear. Okay, so now we've finished configuring our Unity project in order to start using our device with Unity Remote. Having the previous configuration in the previous video inside our Android device. Just a quickly reminder, remember that inside of your Android device, you must make sure that you have the developer mode enabled and the USB debugging. Okay, so now that we have finished configuring our Unity project for using our Android device, let's create a simple script so that you can see some of the cool things that our Android device can do inside of Unity. So what I'm going to do is pretty simple. I want a cube inside of my Unity scene to follow the touch position in my Android device. So let's go over to into creating a cube. Um, okay, here's my cube. I'm going to reset the position 0, 0. Let's see. Okay, here's my cube. I'm going to scale it up a bit. I think 30 approximately. Okay, we want to have a big square, and I'm going to move. Okay, my camera is in position. Okay, it's cool. Okay, now that I have my cube, I want to create um, my script folder, and inside my script folder I'm going to create my script, and this is going to be my touch test. I'm going to open my editor. Okay, so the first thing that we want to do is um, use my... Okay, I want to check that if I touch the screen inside my Android phone, that the square starts following my touch position. So the first thing that I want to do is check if um, touch count input, I'm sorry, input dot touch count. This this is this help us to know how many touches are in the screen. So for example, I want to make sure that if my touch count is greater than 0, that means if I'm touching, I don't care the amount of touches, I just want to know that I'm touching the screen. I will go, now that I have this, I want to create my touch struct. This touch struct will have valuable information such as the position of my touch. So I'm going to say that touch is equal to input dot get touch. Okay, cool. Now I have my struct of the touch inside this variable. So the next thing that I want to do is if my touch dot face equals to mm, touch dot um, touch touch dot face dot input dot touch. No, it's actually it should be. I can't seem to find. Um, um, okay, I'm having trouble finding the method I'm looking for. Um, okay, what I was looking for was touch face dot moved, and this will tell us that once I move my my finger. Okay, I was having trouble finding the correct enum, but now here it is. It's the touch phase. So the touch phase will has these options. As you can see, it can tell you when the touch has begun, when it has been cancelled, when it has ended, when it's stationary, and when it has moved. So what I'm interested here is the move. And once I have detected that my touch has moved, I will go over to telling my transform the position of my cube, because this script, the cube will have assigned this script. I will tell him that its position will be touch dot position. But these, it's actually, we're going to tell it that it's a new vector 3, I'm sorry. And it's going to say that our touch dot position on our x-axis and our touch dot position on our y-axis. Since the position in our Android Studio is of two axes actually, I'm going to change my vector 3 into a vector 2. Okay, now that I have this, um, I'm going to go over back to Unity. Let's let it compile, see that there are no errors. Then I'm going to assign this script to my cube. You can see that our cube now has this. So I'm going to click play. Okay, and inside my device it appears. So, oh, it disappeared out of sight. It's a little sensible. Let's see. Perhaps I move a little backwards the camera. Okay, not so much. Okay, now if I move my cube, you can see that it's following the position of my touch. Okay, that is a simple example of how you can implement certain things inside of Unity. Of course, there are other interesting things that you can do. For example, let's head over and work with a tab. For example, if my touch.tab count equals 2, that means I double tap. I want to change the scale of my cube. So for example, transform the scale, local scale will be equals to a new vector This time it will be vector 3. And I'm going to say, I don't know, if my cube is 30 in the exact in the 3 axes, I will say maybe a 50. And let's head over to Unity, let it compile, and let's click play. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to tap 2 times, and as you can see, the scale has changed. And I'm going to move the camera again backwards so that we don't lose sight of our cube. And here again, here I go again, moving my cube. So as you can see, there are various interesting um, functions inside of Unity that can help us create projects with our Android device.
The same thing applies in the case of iOS. So the first thing that we need to do is actually set up Unity with iOS. If we go into the build settings, you will see that we can actually change this. So right now we have it on PC, Mac, and Linux. So we want to switch this to iOS, and we are going to hit switch platform. What this is going to do is recompile everything that we have right now to be able to work for iOS. It is very important that we do it first before starting our project. Otherwise, it's going to take a long time to convert everything from PC to iOS. As you can see, this was actually really fast. Now, you will see that on the game window, now we have multiple new options. And this is to select exactly what kind of size do we want to use. You will find the most common ones, for instance, for iPad, iPad Pro, iPhone, different versions of iPod, different scales and aspect ratios. And it will highly depend on which one are you thinking to actually use. If you are going to go into something more general, you can go to free aspect, which would be for video games, for instance. But if you want to go actually create an app, sometimes it's a lot better to have the exact same configuration that you will use and that you can check that everything is correctly being set up. So for instance, I will use iPhone XR portrait mode. Okay, you see that it is now modified and that it's looking really similar to how it's going to look. Now, an important thing is that if we want to test this out, we could build everything using directly into iOS, or we can have it actually running on Unity Remote, as you just saw for Android. So I just changed the background to a different color to make it more like an app. And now I'm going to add some text so we can start working with this. Now you will see that this text is right there, but we cannot see it on the screen. Okay, I will change this text to say something else. For instance, my super application. Okay, there's my super app. And you will find that it is extremely small in comparison to the size that we have for the screen. So one of the things that we can actually do is change the size of the font. So I will increase that and I will have more space so it can actually be shown. And as you can see now, we can actually see it. If we go and maximize this window, we can see how it's going to look. It's important to check that because we can have pixelation right there. So I will have a smaller size for the font so it fits even better. And also you will find that we can actually not only play with this information, but we can change how the orientation is, how it is fixed maybe on the middle for both vertical and horizontal. So I'm going to place this text on the top, and now you will see that here on the canvas we have different options. And this is how Unity decides how to change from what we have right here on the different devices. We have constant pixel size, which doesn't matter the size of the physical device, it will use the same amount of pixels. Or we can have scale with screen size, or we can have a constant physical size. So usually we use scale with screen size. Uh, Constant pixel physics size is going to make it a little bit harder for some devices. Now it's asking us for the reference resolution. So I'm going to use the same resolution that we have right now on the bottom, which is for the iPhone XR. And then it's asking us how we want this to change, if we want to match with the width or the height. Okay, and we have different options. You will see that we can put it on the middle, and that's how it's going to change depending on, it's going to change both the width and the height. Okay, so pixels per unit. You will see that there are some changes right there, but that's okay. I'm going to include now a button. Okay, so right here on the button, you will see that when I change the size of it, I will place it here in the middle. It will look okay, but we need to make sure that it is okay. So I'm going to maximize the screen, and now you can see it right there. Doesn't look that great. I'm going to change the scale to be actually 1, so we see it all, how it's actually going to look on the device. So you can see on the corners that we have a little bit of pixelation right there. So we can do, for instance, we can change the size. I'm going to change the scale, and I'm going to change the width and height, so you can see how it changes. So I'm putting twice on the scale. And if we go back into the game view, you will find that the pixelation seems to have been increased. Okay, so I will go the other way around to half and change the width and height. So you can see it right here. It looks really well, but the thing is that the outline, the width of the outline is not that correct. Okay, so depending on the sprite that we are using, we could change that. So I highly encourage you to think about that. The default sprites that Unity has is just to make things work on the fly, but it's always better to define your own sprite so it looks as good as you want it to look. So, okay, I'm going to change the width and height. You can see again how this is looking on the corners. It has it's wider on the line, but the resolution is not that good. So I'm going to go back to 0.5, and from there we will be able to work on this. Okay, so again, think about replacing the sprite to something else. Okay, let me place this in the middle. And now the next issue that we have is the text on the button. It's too small. So I'm going to increase the size. So let's see a little bit more. Okay, it seems that, yep, 100 looks like a good value. And I'm going to put click me. Okay, I will return to the normal scale, and you'll see that this is how the button is. Okay, so now we want something to happen for this. So I'm going to create a new folder for scripts. And inside of this, I'm going to create a little bit of code so we can see how this is connected. So I'm going to say demo for this code, and let's open it up. And now I'm going to include that we should have a new function, which is going to be the one that we are going to call. I'm going to call it click. I'm going to put the book.log, and let's print something like this. It was clicked. Okay. It will compile right now, and you can see that right here we can put this code on either place. So maybe we can put it on the text, and we can modify the text so we have access to that. So to do that, I need the library for unityengine.ui. I'm going to create a private variable to get that text, which is a component that we have inside of it. So I will use underscore text equals get component, and the text component is the one that we want. And now we can change it. Now, We can modify this using the underscore text.text, and I'm going to add a counter so we know how many times we have clicked on this. So I'm going to create this variable named count. I'm going to increase it every time that we start this method. And using .text, I can put it right here, and let's put something like this. Okay, the count, this was clicked this many times, so clicks. Okay, yeah. We'll let it compile. And we want to verify that the script is right there. Yep, it's right there. Okay, so now on the button, we can go into the bands and we can include this object and we can find our function, which is a public function. So it's click right here. Okay, and we can test it. Now, when I hit play, okay, let it compile a little bit, you will see that if I hit, it's changing. You can see it both on the debug.log and inside here on the screen. Okay, so now what we want to do is to make this run on iOS before actually building it. If we build it completely, it's going to take a lot of time to actually work. So it's a very long process to have it all the way into Unity. So what I'm going to do is I downloaded the Unity Remote app on my iOS device. I connected my phone, you can see right there the thing, and it's now asking me to trust the device. So I will hit trust the device, and now it is fully connected to my computer. So now what I want to do is to go into the project settings and make sure that I will use this device. So you can find here the option editor, which says device for Unity Remote. Right now it says none. Okay, so you can see that we have any Android device, we have any iOS device, and our specific device. So I will select this one. I will change the compression to PNG so it looks better. The resolution is currently downsized. I will put it to normal. And the joystick, you can see that we can have remote or local. Let's keep it on remote. Now, an important thing is that the app hasn't been updated a lot. So you will see that it has a letterbox on the top and on the back. Okay, so if everything is working properly, then I will be able to hit play on the computer and Unity Remote will catch this on my mobile phone. Okay, you can see it right here and I can click. And as you can see, I'm touching right now the screen, not the computer, and it's actually reacting to this. Okay, so I could also play a little bit to see how it looks different when I set this up. As I said before, this is still a big issue because Unity hasn't updated the app, so it has letterboxing. So if you see right here and I change this to be portrait, it changes completely on the phone. If I change this to free aspect, it's going to change as well. Okay, so I can have a very good idea of how it's going to look. Hopefully Unity will improve the app so it has a full screen on the new devices like this one. Okay, and if we wanted to build this now for iOS, we'll have to go to the player settings. Let me close this and put all the information that we need. Okay, so you will find that we have information for the icon. You can put the main icon right here, and then you can specify explicitly which kind of icon you want for the application icon. Right here is iPhone, and it has the different sizes for the different devices. Also, we have the resolution presentation. So right now there's no scaling. We could change that, fix the API. The default orientation, we can have it to automatically rotate when we move the mobile phone, or we can set it fixed to portrait, portrait upside down, landscape right, or landscape left, depending on the kind of application that we are building. Okay, if we set up, for instance, landscape left, we lose some options, but if we put auto rotation, we can select if we want to rotate to some of them. Yeah. So we can have the animated rotation as well. We have the status bar if we want to show it or not, where it says the model company, the current time, etc. If we want to change the bar style, okay. The splash image at the beginning, this highly depends on the version of Unity that you have. The debugging and crash reporting, so as you can see, it is now deprecated the internal profile. So I highly recommend that you don't use it. And on other settings, you will find that we have things like multi-threaded rendering. We have the color space that we can use, the dynamic batching, things for the shaders, etc. Okay, the bundle identifier for the App Store, and right here we can have the description. If we are going to use the camera, we need to put here a text that says something like, for using this augmented reality application, we need to use the camera. So when they see this message, they approve to use the camera. The same thing about the microphone, and the same thing about the location. Okay, so these three are really important to have actual messages that the user can understand. We could also put on-demand resources. We can also have something different, for instance, for preparing the operating system for recording, or forcing the speakers when we are recording. We can have persistent Wi-Fi. So it's all the time using the Wi-Fi. We can allow downloads over HTTP, which is not as secure. Okay, then we have the target device and the target SDK and the minimum iOS version. So right now we are on 14. As you can see, it says 11. So depending on the version that we want to deploy this, is the version of Unity, the Xcode, and iOS that we should use. Okay, and if we want to use augmented reality with ARKit, this is where you put support for that, and it will increase the size of the application. Same thing if you want to hide the home button for iPhone X, etc. So we have multiple things right here that you can check with time when you are building your iOS application. Okay, so mainly this is how we can actually create our app and connect it and make it a lot faster to run instead of just building it and checking if everything is correct.